Hey there, I'm Mark from Spectrum Pulse, and today we have from PUP, Who Will Look After the Dogs? So after PUP dove headfirst into self-aware meta-commentary / right up their own ass on their 2022 album, even if the tunes could have afforded to be tightened up to compensate, I can't help but think the screaming, maximalist production was the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of fans. So this was gonna have to do a lot to fill in those gaps. Granted, the presence of John Congleton producing gave me some pause, his record's been all over the place recently, but I really wanted this to work, and I think it mostly does as a course correction, albeit not reaching the heights of The Dream Is Over or Morbid stuff. If anything, it feels like trying to split the difference between the pop-punk anthems and the blown-out, grisly distortion of their last album. And for all the grief I've given him the past couple of years, John Congleton is a better producer for that sound than most. The raw feedback is still jagged, frequently punishingly loud, but it's not done at the expense of the hammering percussion or nervy bass lines, to say nothing of Stephen Babcock's full-throated howling trying to roar through, where it makes sense for singles like the sour cacophony of Paranoid, and it makes them nightmarishly effective. It's easy to make the Jeff Rosenstock comparison, and of course he actually features on the album on the snarling downward spiral of Get Dumber. So texturally, it's better, if a slightly inconsistent answer. Hunger for Death really didn't need the fizzy drum machines or squonking horns, but it also didn't need some of those grating wisps of distortion on the back half. But do the hooks measure up? Well, Olive Garden is one of the better examples of pushing the melodies through that roiling, detuned distortion, as is the lumbering ramshackle of Needed to Hear It, probably my favorite hook on the album. And there was some nice indie rock twang underscoring Cruel with the meaty bass line. But if we're talking about the pure, tuneful swings for the fences, I'm gonna pick Concrete, Hallways, especially Best Revenge, and I appreciate the rattling closing ballad Shut Up, but I'm also struggling to find cuts that go as huge as their best. Now, that's not fair to PUP on some level. I don't think they could write songs that mean as much to me as Morbid Stuff and Kids did in 2019. But when we get to the songwriting, it's hard not to hear this as PUP back in a narrower comfort zone. In short, it's a breakup album, where it's hard to avoid the context of Stephen Babcock ending a decade-long relationship, and with the usual level of self-awareness, it's not even one where they can disagree much in the inevitable collapse. As much as PUP's relentless downbeat energy can start to test my patience, they seemed acutely aware that they were a bad fit for each other as the arc descends into a gradual lack of care for each other, with Babcock's self-destructive insecurity, awkwardness, and paranoia in full swing, but there's also some genuine pathos in acknowledging that falling out of love still really hurts, and you're never sure just how many more chances you will wind up getting on a track like Hallways. And there is some metatext here as well. If the protagonist felt like he was a bad partner before, tack on being in a touring punk rock band after your commercial peak, where your friends might be settling down and have their lives on a certain path, and he definitely doesn't, where he can try to provide some solutions, but the ex doesn't need them from this guy and just wants him to, well, shut up, get his shit together. And that feels potent when relationships are taken for granted until they're gone. Enough care given to the ex to provide honesty that they would respect, but also a pact they'd have to walk somewhere the fuck else. Now, that being said, it's not unfamiliar thematic territory for PUP, and lyrically, some of these songs feel a little more bare bones and borderline conventional than with the density or distinctly Canadian flair we heard on the past couple of projects, which has this album function more as resetting the table rather than pushing the formula, more polishing the basics than experimentation. And that can work. I'm on board with this noisier production approach, especially when it feels much better executed than their last outing, and in terms of lean consistency and landing their thematic arc, it's actually probably one of their most effective, but it also lacks the biggest high points that would nudge it into greatness for me beyond certain songs. Still very solid for as much as it seems like this band's always falling apart at the seams with that level of tension and intensity. I'm looking forward to eventually hearing all of it from one of my favorite live acts, and if you were missing PUP in your life, yeah, you know what? Absolutely worth hearing. I'd say give it a shot. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to see more, please be sure to like, share, drop comments, subscribe. Yeah, this was a bit of a tricky one to get through. I am happy that I got a chance to talk about it, and I was really looking forward to this just being another great return to form. Not quite all the way there, but it gets pretty close. I respect that. And hey, PUP fans, leave your comments down there below. Once again, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if y'all want to get involved in getting projects onto my schedule, or just helping support me, or you know what, just yelling at me on my Discord, link to my Patreon and YouTube memberships are right over there. Don't feel obligated. Tough times out there, I understand, but the option's available. Till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.